Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, wherever you may be in the world. I'm Sara Jane, and welcome to Gift of Healing TV. I am delighted to have my usual co-host for today's conversation as my guest for our program today, Scott Holmes. Scott, thank you for joining me.
Oh, thank you, Sarah. It's always a pleasure anytime I'm on screen with you.
Oh, you're an angel. Thank you. Scott is going to be sharing with us about empathy versus absorption. And that may ring true for a lot of people, especially if you're empathic. But first of all, I am going to introduce Scott more fully to you. R. Scott Holmes is a quantum healing practitioner, transformational coach, and Amazon best-selling author, whose work bridges science, spirit, and the human heart. A Reiki master teacher, polarity therapist, RYSE, teacher,
Rise. Yep.
theta healing, universal white time healing practitioner. You've done that with Bradford, have you?
I have.
Sorry, people we know. And certified Find Your Voice coach. That's got to be with Diana.
That is.
Sorry, we have people in common that we know. Scott blends a decade of study with the hard-earned wisdom of lived experiences. Scott's path into holistic healing began in the depths of loss after a 20-year caregiving journey with his wife and multiply impaired daughter, and the passing of his wife of 39 years. He was guided into the world of energy, awareness, and transformation. Through his awakening, he discovered not only how to heal, but how to help others find meaning, freedom, and joy in their own lives. Through one-on-one sessions, teaching, hospice volunteering, and his monthly podcasts, Scott has held sacred space for countless professionals and seekers, helping them remember who they are and reconnect to their innate wholeness. His collaborations with Brave Healer Productions capture the essence of his journey, honest, heart-centered explorations of resilience, authenticity, and the alchemy of healing. When not teaching or writing, Scott can be found traveling the world with his wife, Patty, exploring sacred sites, tasting local cuisine, climbing mountains, and meditating by the sea. Yoga, Qigong, and daily meditations keep him grounded in gratitude, curiosity, and wonder for this extraordinary life we get to live. Scott, thank you so very much for sharing with us today. Please, I know there's quite a lot in what I've just read, but please share a little about yourself and why this particular topic.
Thank you very much. And Sarah, we don't get to chat very often. You know, we're on screen an awful lot with each other, but we don't get to talk to each other. And that's a wonderful thing for me. So why this topic? My wife, I'm married to an empath, and for anybody who has an empath in the family, they see things, the world, so differently. Now, I when we first met, I thought it was just because I'm a guy, and I didn't quite see things the same way. But she sees things that I never even knew were there. She hears things that I didn't. We were buying a car the other day, and she says, "You hear that? Turn the air conditioning up." Okay. Do you hear that? I've said, "I have no idea what you're talking about." There's a whine. There's a whining. I said, "Okay." I said, "So we turn the heat on." She said, "See, there it is again." I couldn't hear. For the life of me, I couldn't hear it. And so we went back to the dealer. He said, "Yep, there's a whining in it." He said, "Oh, the blower motor?" She said, "Yep." Okay. She caught that. I would never, ever, ever, ever. Smells. She is so attuned to smell. They used to, when I was a custodian, they'd put me into the really bad messes because I couldn't smell anything. But, and it wouldn't bother me. But my wife, she smells everything. So it used to get me angry. I'm like, yo, you're making so much out of all of this. Oh my goodness, it's too much. It isn't, because for her, that is her understanding of how she sees the world. She is that sensitive. And when we talk about empaths, we talk about a whole nother level of sensitivity. we walk together, and throughout most of my life, I've tried to understand people. But she feels their pain. She feels that. And, it's a gift, and it's also a bit of a curse, because she feels it fully. Patty often says that she has her, basically her bladder is hooked directly to her eyes. And so they're always leaking. And she's very quick with the emotions. And I, for years, had so many years where my emotions were, I was an expert stuffer, by the way. I could keep stuffing them down. Nope, not going to deal with them. No, that's a bad one. I'm not going to deal with that. By the way, until they just came up and just popped out all over the place. Which, by the way, you can't ignore emotions for all your life, or you're going to be like one of those big balloons that are just filled with all of this emotion and rage and all of the emotions you don't want to deal with. So that's where I have become much more attuned to empathy. And in doing that, she has made me a much, much better person. I've said it before, Sarah. It was a 1,000,000-mile journey from my head to my heart. And she opened that for me. She opened the heart for me. And so empathy and compassion came forward, and they started being how I related to people, with that compassion, instead of judgment and black and white. Everything has to fit into here. Wait a minute. Most things don't quite fit in the box, nor are they black or white. Shades of gray through all of our lives. We find that everyone is different shades of gray, and we have to allow for that. And their perception of the world, while it may be different, is not wrong, should not be judged, but should be accepted.
%100. There's seriously, because I spent time working with adults with learning difficulties, and what is normal? And as my sister added to that, and whose definition is it anyway?
I love it.
And it's so true. You talk about stuffing stuff down, but that's when the explosion comes. Your book, From Burnout to Burning Bright, which you invited me to be part of, that's exactly what happened to me. Everything I bottled over years, and then suddenly those floodgates opened, and there was nothing I could do to stop it. So it was escaping where I was, so that I wasn't actually making a fool of myself, but that's not, I was still in that insecure space of not realizing that it doesn't matter what other people think. So I absolutely get that. And I'm listening to what you're saying about Patty and therefore empaths. When I started my journey with the techniques and the practices, one of the techniques I learned was a technique called metamorphic technique. And the one thing that he was very, very strict on is you have to stay totally detached. And when he said totally detached, he meant totally detached. And to the extent if they said during a session, oh, I really fancy finding somebody who does shiatsu. And if I knew who, and I do know somebody who does shiatsu, but I couldn't tell them. They have to find it for themselves. It's their journey. There's no input from the practitioner. None. And that's very difficult. But I actually found I was able to do it. And able to realize, and to a certain degree, maybe it's a question for you, is how attached to an outcome when you're working with a client are you? I know where I've managed to get myself, but how attached to outcome are you?
That's part of what I came up with this title was because of that. Because when I first started and learned Reiki, and I found energy, and I was very excited about that. And I wanted to, I was doing self Reiki every day, and I went to Reiki too. And I'm like, I want to heal everybody. And so I thought that healing was taking their pain into you and then you getting rid of it. The only problem with that is some of it sticks. It stays with you. It doesn't matter how well you shower, how well you energetically shower, stuff sticks. And I said, there's got to be a better way than this. This doesn't seem right. I heard the horror stories of healers who died because they took too much of somebody else's energy in. And I'm thinking, that's not the way it should be. Mm-hmm. When I started doing different modalities, and all those different modalities that you talked about, was for me at the next level. It gave me another tools in a toolbox, because it gave me perspectives on how to look at people, how to look at their illnesses, how to look at their blockages, how to see what they need, and have all these tools. And I loved having a full toolbox. And so now I keep all the energy. I bring the energy in. It works as it does, as it should, within that person, as they need it. I don't direct it. I don't have my only real, my only thing that I want for them is better. I want them to feel better, be better, allow them to heal in the way that they need to. That's when I'm working with clients, that's what I want for them. If I can bring a tool in, a breathing technique, if I can bring in a meditation that allows them to kind of calm right down, to be able to hear their inner voice, not mine, their inner voice, so that it's there. And by the way, do you ever notice everything that we do, it's all about bringing it back to here so that we can hear, that we can hear us. We as kids, right? We have that joy, that voice. We go all over and we find it in whatever attracts us to whatever it is we're doing, and whatever we fancy, and whatever really calls to us, and we're really excited about it. And I don't know quite what happens, but all those boundaries keep coming closer and closer and closer, and then this is kind of where we are in that box, and we don't have that same kind of joy of curiosity. We don't have the same type of learning. And everything that I work in the schools locally here. I live in Massachusetts, and I work in the schools, and I'm walking through a kindergarten, first grade corridor, and you can do it. You can be anything you want to be. You can, share. You can be kind. What are we doing as grown-ups? We have those same slogans. we're teaching the same thing that kindergarten teachers are teaching. I love they had a poster and it was everything I needed to know about life I learned in kindergarten. And it listed all of the things about how to play, how to share, how to nap, that I need a nap every day, that I when I'm tired I go to sleep. And all of the rules that we set for ourselves when we were in kindergarten. And if we just lived that way all the way through, life would be pretty good, I think. But back to doing work with clients is I don't take anybody's energy. I bring the energy to them, pure white. I deal in white light, and I bring it. And white light is universal. It's like type O positive blood, right? It's kind of universal for almost everybody, and it works. And when we clear it, and when they feel it coming into their body, they get sensations. And when they feel it going through blockages that have been there for so long, all of a sudden they're like, "Ooh, wait a minute! Wow, okay, I've had a block in my hip for years. I've had pain. Now it's kind of gone, and because it was energetic." So it's that understanding. And when we talk about empathy, I think for me, I have become I listen more to other people's vibrations. I don't know if you can call that empathy, but for me, it's an intuitive knowing. When you're working with somebody and they allow you into their field, right, of energy, and they have that vulnerability to allow you to observe. There's so much you can see and feel from them that they can't necessarily feel. And when I do a body scan, I actually feel it. If you're having a headache, I feel a pain right there, and I say, okay, you have a headache, and it's just above your right eye. Yes, and I'll walk through and say, oh, your throat's kind of sore. Now they haven't told me anything. I'm just feeling their energy walking through it, and I will get for me, it's a ping in that spot. Oh, your left shoulder, your right hip. I get a ping, and it lets me know what's going on in their body. But I don't accept that energy. It's just a little showcase of what's going on so that I can understand it. And that's how my knowing shows up, is in those fields. And it's remarkable when I point those things out and then walk them through clearing and allowing all that energy through. All of a sudden, all those little ills and the aches and the pains in the back and their knee doesn't hurt as much anymore. Just from allowing energy to work with them. And I know how much you work with Reiki. I know how much you work with sound. And I love sound because, they're doing fields of medicine now where different vibrations can heal different parts of the body. I mean, I've just been reading a lot about that and viewing it on the web, and it's amazing what happens when we do that. Your toning is healing. Your sound Reiki is healing. That's because everything is vibration, everything is energy. We talk about absorption, and it's taking other people's energy in. Now, in working with clients, and I'm sure you've had this at one time or another, I've had kind of Klingons, energetic Klingons, if you will. And it's when you're working with somebody and the energy transfers to you. Now, I intentionally clear myself before and after every time. I don't want to give anybody else's energy. I don't want anybody giving them my energy. But there are times when those energies do, and it's not always easy to work with that. I have friends of mine who do Reiki. We've worked together. I'll call them up and say, I'm feeling really kind of odd, and I think I've got something going on. And they'll say, "Oh yeah, you do. You have that energy right down there on your left leg. Okay, just below the knee." I'm like, "Really? You can see it that easily?" Yes. I can't see it, but they can see it on me. By the way, that's a curiosity of why we can't see ourselves as clearly as we can see others, right? So she'll do that, clear it, it's gone, and it's taken care of. And it's for those of you out there who don't understand energy or haven't had a lot of practice with it. Pain is energy. When the flow stops in your elbow, okay, you'll find that your elbow's hot. It hurts, right? And it's hot. It's because the energy comes down and it sits there. Now, if we can release that blockage so that the energy continues all the way down your arm and out, all of a sudden the pain isn't there anymore. The heat isn't there anymore. The body doesn't sense pain anymore. And that's what we're doing. When we say heal, I'm always loath to use that. But in moving energy, it allows people not to feel the pain. It gives them comfort. Now, I do hospice work, and usually I go in late stage, where they might have a month or less, because they've tried everything else and they're looking for some kind of relief. I've had marvelous times where I've been able to allow people to relax for the very first time in months by doing a Reiki session. And they are calm and clear for just that little bit of time. And it's the only time they have been, because they're in transition. And for me, that is some of the most heartwarming work that I do. I do it in my wife's memory. I thought after a year after she was gone that I could do this, just do hospice. No. 5 years after she passed, I ended up taking the course. It took me 3 months to do a 40-hour course in order to be able to give my time. Sounds counterintuitive, doesn't it? But the course was so well worth it, because it brought you through how you see death, how you deal with grief, how you see what matters, and how to be able to speak to people. And I'm not one necessarily for small talk, and I walk in and I talk to people about things that are important. I usually have no more than an hour and a half with somebody. And I ask them, is there something that you haven't talked about that you need to? Is there something you want to tell your family? Is there something that you want to do or talk about that you haven't been able to? And the responses are absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing. I'm in the process right now of losing a client. She has ALS, and they've been fighting it for about 18 months. And I came to her and did a session, and she's absolutely beautiful, wonderful lady. And I saw her husband, and I knew he needed more help than she did. She was accepting of it. She knew her limitations. He was holding on. And right after I saw her, she went to the hospital for 10 days. They almost lost her. She came back. I saw her again, and she looked at me and said, "I've had enough. I want out of this body. It has failed me." And of course, why does it seem to happen to the people that are the most energetic, that are the most, she was constantly in motion. She took care of her family. She was always doing things. And it just brought her to a standstill. And she just looked at me and said, "If he took me tonight, I'd be okay. But I know my husband wouldn't be okay with that." And she reached her hand out, put it on my arm, and said, "Would you please talk to him?" Here I am doing work with her, but she wanted me to talk to her husband. So it's those situations where you can hold space for people that are going through transition. Some of the most they were there for me with my wife. And when I didn't know how I was going to hold it myself together, and they were absolutely amazing. The nurses, the aides, everybody who worked with hospice. They worked with my parents. They were absolutely stunning. And I said to myself, I'll never be able to do that. Well, never say never, because I can and do. And I absolutely, the biggest part of me, because there were no expectations, none, only for me to be there. It reminds me of my grandson. My grandson was 17 years old and my wife was passing. And everybody was around the house and everybody's kind of running around and my daughters are there. And my grandson, he's in high school, and he just came and he sat. Didn't say much of anything, didn't ask anything. He sat in the room with my wife for 3 hours. I said, "Anthony, you okay?" "Yeah." Is there anything you need?" "No, don't need anything." Intuitively, he knew exactly what to do at that age. And it always was so remarkable to me that he had that level of maturity to be able to do that, to see that, when a lot of the people around him, much older by the way, weren't handling it very well at all. And he just was there. And he showed me so much in that time. I don't know about you, but I've seen, I think I judge people most when things are at their worst. That's when the truest part of people come out. The strength.
I think when people are at their worst, it's having an openness as to what's happened in their life, what has caused them to be the way they are. And so I tend to be one of these people that when things go on, it's just like, I play devil's advocate, if you like. It's just like, all right, so this is happening, but why is this happening? What has happened? You and I, we've in different ways, we've had so much go on in our lives that I suppose that's how I don't hold on to things. Right. But also when I'm working with the Reiki, and my Reiki master was brilliant. She said, "Don't copy me. I'm me. Be you." But she was very strict about, we offer the energy, we don't give it. And the fact that I don't see things, hear things, feel things is brilliant, because I can just stand there and I can hold that channel open, and I just say to in my head, it's where in their life or their body they require it most, for them to accept or reject as they choose, because it is not for us to make the individual have it. But I also invite in a healing and cleansing fire to go around the therapy couch, and a healing and cleansing spring to run under it. Therefore, any energies that are ready to leave, they are cleansed as they leave. Thus, I suppose, in some respects, protecting me too, but negating the negativity of those energies. So when they go out into the universe, they're not then able to go and attach themselves negatively to anybody else or anything else. So what can we do to protect ourselves? Something else I do on a daily basis, I ask Archangel Michael for his deep blue cloak of protection. I was taught that you can ask Archangel Chamuel for a pink bubble of love. And if you've really getting problems with somebody or something, you can use mirrors to bounce it back at them. I don't think I've ever used the mirrors. I tend to stick to Michael. But so what thoughts and what suggestions would you make to people? Just as I've made some suggestions, because these are the things I do. I'm not making a suggestion because it's a thought. It's this is what I do. What suggestions would you make to people as to way they could protect their energy? And I suppose one of the things is because I offer the energy, I don't actually try and force it. And the individual has total freedom of choice as to whether they accept it. And that's going to be sometimes on a higher level. Just because they've come and laid on the couch doesn't mean necessarily that they should get that energy.
Right.
And we have to accept that. So some thoughts on how people can, and I suppose I'm lucky. I don't know whether I've had that attachment of something attaching itself to me. But as I said, I don't see things, hear things, or necessarily feel things at times. So maybe I have. But I work with vibration. And our vibration out of sync is what causes the aches, the pains, the illnesses, the ailments. To me, sound is what the right sound, the right vibration can literally pull you back into balance. So yeah, I love working with the Reiki. I love working with the sound. It's phenomenal what it can do, but it's only if the individual is ready for it. Thoughts that you can share that people could do to not necessarily protect themselves. I don't think that's quite the right word, but to negate anything negative that the individual has been so ready to let go of.
One of the things that I work with clients is I tell them that they have the hardest job in the session, and that is to allow. Period. What do you mean allow? Well, I've worked. You and I both worked with people who said, "Oh, I want to get rid of this," or I don't want this anymore. And then they don't let it go, and it's always a curious thing. And I've asked them afterwards why they wouldn't let it go, and they said, "Well, who would I be if I didn't have that? It's been my story my whole life. If I lose that, what am I? I'm just an empty vessel." I don't quite see it that way. I see that when we allow those things to leave, it makes room for those things that are much better to come in. And that's comfort, right? That's the place of where we don't look for change. When we're in comfort, we want to stay there. This is good. It's okay. I'm good. You want to change? Well, I don't like change, so I'm going to just stay right here. Thank you very much. Okay. And then they'll complain about this, and this. And you go, okay, so you do want to change or you don't want to change? They don't want to have the work that it requires sometimes, but hey, that is what life. Work ethic is a funny thing. You were in the service industry, and sorry, I'm using the word service, but you were in the hospitality industry for a very long time. And so that requires an incredible level of work ethic, of having to get up early, having to stay late, having to constantly doing things for other people, constantly being there. I was in the restaurant business when I was young, and thought I loved it because I was always busy. And then I realized that I wasn't getting anywhere. I was just serving everybody else. And really not being able to slow down myself. And that's really interesting about how people view themselves in that way. Empathy versus absorption. Does lack of empathy mean that you don't care? Here's the question for you, right? Do we mix that up with not caring? Or is understanding something and having empathy for someone, having compassion for someone, okay, but it isn't always ours to fix? We've talked in thankfully you asked me to be in. I'm not selfish. I'm just
I didn't become selfish. I became hard to manipulate.
I became hard to manipulate. Thank you. I can never get that right. I love the book. I love the understanding of it, and that was me though. I was always in service to others, above and beyond, and usually instead of service to myself, instead of being true to myself. And everybody would come to me because I never said no. If something could be done, I knew how to do it, or I knew a guy. You know, hey, have you done that? I said I can't do that, but I know a guy who does that. I know I can get him for you. And I would solve. I was an innate problem solver. When I was a middle manager, I was the problem solver. Everybody came to me if they had if there was a department that wasn't running right. They would put me there because I would get it running right. I would solve the problems. I would solve the people problems. All the things that people didn't want to deal with, I used to solve those. And I really enjoyed that aspect. But then I realized that when I stopped saying yes to everything, that people would look for other solutions, their own. One of your favorite sayings is, by saying no, you allow two people to be able to. You serve two people. They are much better off for it.
Yeah, you're not holding. Basically, you stop holding two people back.
Two people back, and because you're not doing something for somebody, you're allowing them to do it for themselves or find their solution, and you also are taking that step back for you to be able to do what you need to do.
Yeah.
So again, that is the same kind of absorption that we walk through when we care about other people. When we are people pleasers, we take on their responsibilities. We take on their grief, their anger, we take on a lot of their things, and we walk with them, and we gladly hold it for them because we think that's how we need to be in order to be loved, to be valued, to be important in this world, to be value added. That's what we need to do. And the funny thing is, when you stop doing that, you find out who was around because you were easy to say yes, and who actually cared about you. And that is an interesting aspect I'm finding with people.
Oh, when you're true to yourself, it's amazing who and what falls away.
Oh yeah, exactly.
So sort of, I'm just going to add something totally off the cuff here to a certain degree. Do you know, and I'm not sure it's a poem per se, Desiderata?
One of my favorites.
Absolutely. And Les Crane turned it into a record. And the verse of that, the chorus of that was, "You are a child of the universe, no less than the trees and the stars. You have a right to be here. And whether or not it is clear to you, no doubt the universe is unfolding as it should." And be true to you. It's all about being true to you and being open to this life and the gifts it brings. But we are here for others, but we're not here for others. We're here. The way I sort of think about it is, I have a tool in energy that I can offer. If you choose to accept it, it can empower your own self-healing. But I offer it. You don't have to say yes. And I've learnt to be okay with those that say no, because it's their journey, not mine. And when you were sort of talking about the people that really don't want to get better, oh golly, I had somebody who kept bringing me clients and they didn't want to get better. But the truth was, they knew that actually I could help them. So they never came back. They would go and spend hundreds of pounds, because I'm in England, UK, in the UK, folks. They'd have spent hundreds of pounds going to people that couldn't help them. But they wouldn't spend what I was charging because there was the chance I might, and they didn't know who they would be if it worked. So they're desperate. I want this to work. They didn't. At the core of their being, they didn't.
It's amazing the beliefs that people carry with them, isn't it?
Yeah.
Desiderata, by the way, all through high school, on the back of my bedroom door was that poster. I found it when I was about 12 years old. And I put it on and I would read that. And it's so impactful for me.
Yeah.
And basically said, don't judge other people, just be you. And it made me think constantly about what it means to be me. I wanted to be a psychology major. I wanted to be a psychologist. I studied Jung. I studied psychology, Freud. I studied all of it. I read Katie Lang, and I read all of these just esoteric Hermann Hesse and all of the Jean-Paul Sartre. And it was in trying to find different aspects and how to see life. And when we all get down to it, it's who and what we are and being okay with that. Understanding that we are unique, that we look at other people and we say, oh, well, I don't have that, but, I do have this, but not quite as good as that. And, maybe I should do better, and I should do this, and all of a sudden those shoulds just get piled on your shoulders, right? All the shoulds. And all of a sudden you can't really move all that well, and you're kind of stuck in this box, and you really can't move all that well. And that really limits your energy, it limits your understanding, it limits your visibility, it limits your understanding. And then curiosity goes away. And then joy goes away. And then we're kind of living the life of, every day I get up and I kind of sort of do the same thing, and I kind of go in the same place, and I see the same people, and I come home and it's kind of the same. And that for me would be Groundhog Day. That would be living life over and over and over and over again. And I couldn't do that. For some people, that regimentation, that sense of sameness is what they long for. For me, it's always been, I want every day to be different. I want every day to be there, to be challenges. I want there to be good points. I want there to be bad points. I want to talk to different people. I want to be able to experience different things because I want to understand. I want to expand my experiences, my knowledge, my everything. Why I travel like I do. You know, I just got back from Egypt, and it was otherworldly, by the way. And I would encourage, and it seems like everybody, I would encourage people to go, but it seems that everybody is going there. We're sailing down the Nile, and we counted 50 of these huge 3-decker, 300 passenger boats on the Nile on that same day. And they all were stopping at the same places. And it's just that the draw of Egypt. And it's all about, oh, wait a minute, something we've talked about, which is vibrations. When you walk in those temples, you feel it. One of the most wonderful experiences, by the way, in traveling, I was in England. And we were going to this really old pub. And across the path from the pub was this 12th century Norman church. Old. We're talking old. You walked in, it felt old. And it held an incredible amount of energy. And you could feel it, the depth of it. And stone never, we always think of it as just very permanent and just sits there, but it absorbs energy all the time. For any of you out there, and this is an off topic, if you ever felt a stone, why do we feel stones? Oh, wait a minute, crystals are stones, right? All these different stones, and they carry different vibrations and energies. Those huge granite walls in a building, they carry energy. They store energy. They record energy. If any of you have ever hugged a tree, yes, a tree hugger, but if you've ever placed your hands on a tree and ever listened and ever had the tree talk to you, that's an experience. And you can have that at any point in any time. And by the way, they are very lively. Look at all the animals that people talk to, right? My wife Patty talks to the cat like they're human. And the funny thing is the cat responds. I don't get it. So if there's that level of energy, there is a life force out there. We're interacting with all of it. And we get to choose what we take in for energy and what we don't take in for energy. I'm going to ask you, where is your favorite place to be, Sara Jane?
Out in nature.
But what does that look like? Is that a mountain? Is that a pond? Is that the beach? Where's that?
Water is my favorite. Waterfalls, rivers, sort of like, not necessarily the sea, which I live so close to. But I love waterfalls. I really love waterfalls. There's an energy. It's a sound, I suppose. It's back to sound and vibration. But you know what? Just listening to the wind in the trees, being in a woodland. I've got a woodland right over the road from me, you know, that I can go and, it's not a big one, but I can go and walk around it whenever I want to. And I do on a regular basis. Because nature, and you said talking about, yeah, I had cats for years. I have my niece's dog twice a week. But I see a squirrel and I'll say hi to it. I hear the robin and I'll say hi to it and thank you for its song. I talk to the animals, and we sometimes get flies in the house and bees in the house, and I talk to them to get them out of the house.
Does it work?
Oh, seriously, it was hilarious. One time a fly flew into this lounge and I said to it, excuse me, back out the door, go back through the kitchen door, go down to the end of the kitchen where you came in, and please go out. And it did.
Okay. Wow.
It was just like, okay. So, yeah, sort of, yeah, and because of the animals that we get into the garden, Trevor has created a wildlife garden. It is for wildlife.
Wow.
And so sort of see anything, and it's just like, yeah, there's a pond. So, and he's actually had dragonflies who've laid their eggs and whatever, and they've come out, and he's been able to watch the dragonfly come out, because that's what the fox visits the garden on a regular basis. You know, sort of, it's just like you've got the birds. It's what it's about. We've got bees, and we've got all sorts in the garden. It's the frogs and the newts and the toads and it's just wonderful. But it is about wildlife, and therefore it's organized chaos. and that is that you talked at the very beginning about it being not black and white, but there's grey. But what we forget is it's not black, white, and grey. Look at nature. It's filled with colour. And that is what our life should be. Our chakras are the colours of the rainbow. Life is about colour. I look at the flowers in the garden. They don't blossom in competition. They blossom and they bloom because that is what they're there to do. And that's what we should be here to do. We're not in competition with each other. We're here to bloom in our own time, whatever our colours are, and to show those to the world. And that's why I like wearing colour. I may have white on, but trust me, I've got other colour on as well. I love black because the amount of colours you can wear with black. We're coming to the end of the programme. And I know we've talked about a lot, but is there anything that we haven't touched on that you would like to share before we close?
One of the things that I'm really proud of, especially with the book From Burnout to Burning Bright. Yeah. There's my plug. So is the vulnerability of the stories of all the authors, yours especially, in that the authors went through very rough times through their lives. A number of them said that after they said yes to me, they were a little bit angry with me because they went through a time in their life when they really were at the low point. And they thought they had really gotten rid of that, had gone through it, and had put it to bed. And they relived that. And that's what we talk about when we talk about healing, is we never heal once.
Yeah, that's right.
When because we're constantly changing and evolving, all of a sudden that same trauma, that same circumstance, we look at it, but we look at it from a different perspective, from here or here or here. And things look a little different, right? Have you ever had a conversation with people who've witnessed an accident, a car accident, say, and they see it from different points of view, and you would think that they saw something completely different from one another, even though it was the same circumstance, because of their point of view, their perspective, what they saw, when they caught it, how they caught it. And so in that same way, as perspective changes for those things that happen to us, we may have to revisit those things again in different aspects. We talk about absorption, empathy. And for me, empathy for yourself, that sympathy, that compassion for yourself allows for not absorbing other people's. Being a people pleaser, I had very little sympathy for myself because I knew I could get through it. No matter the hardship, I could get through it. It didn't matter. What I didn't want was anybody else having to go through the same thing that I did. So now I really, in much the same way that you said, that you offer energy. Some people reject it, some people take it, some people can use it, some people can't. It is what it is. And with really not viewing the outcome or having a stake in the outcome, just allowing it to happen. I do that now also. I've come to that point in my life where I am here to offer. You can choose not to. But I know that I can help you get beyond where you're going, where you want to go, where you're stuck. If you want to do the work. And the book is about, From Burnout to Burning Bright, is about coming through those dark spaces in your life, to coming out the other side. And coming out much better, by the way, because you know you've lived through the experience, because you've been able to survive that, because you've been able to grow because of it. And in that burning process, you said you put the fire around, right? When you're working with clients. And I do the same. You put the energy through the fire and it comes out the other side, and it's just now energy. Not good, not bad, not anything, just energies that somebody else can use and the world can use, right? And that fire makes us that much better, I believe. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Scott. Scott's website is, where is it? Well, there it is. I've just put it into the chat. www.rscottholmes.com. If you're watching this on YouTube, you'll find it in the information below the video. So please, and Scott, the book, I take it, is on your website.
The book is on the website. It's on Amazon. We have been really pleased that it has become a #1 bestseller in the US, a bestseller in Canada and UK. And never thought that would happen, but it is because of these marvelous writers, these authors that have really shared parts of themselves and really shared pathways to get out of where anybody else needs that. If they can hear it, where they need to hear it. And having 25 stories, by the way, you're going to find a point where you can say, yes, they wrote that for me.
Yeah. People will find something that absolutely resonates with them.
Absolutely. Scott,
thank you so very much for sharing with us. I'm going to say tonight, but actually today for you. And Scott will actually be back next week, because next week we have a today's conversation for you. When healing becomes leadership, trust your inner wisdom. And our guest is Jennifer Regular, who I'm going to be meeting tomorrow, sort of online. So thank you, Scott. Folks, I hope you'll think about joining us for another program at another time. And if anything that Scott has said has resonated with you, please do visit his website. Do check it out. And I'm sure you can contact him through a contact page that you have. Yes. Yep. So if it feels right to connect with Scott, please do. In the meantime, folks, take care, be safe, stay well. Namaste, sweet souls.
Thank you.
Cheerio. Bye.